All right, so here we are. Office hours, Wednesday, March 18th, 2021. This is week 3 for spring 2021 DCO. And this is for, everyone here has been through the DCO. So this is the week where we cover entity reference field or reference fields and stuff like that. So the demo I promised the class that I would record here is, well, 2 of them, Inline Entity Form. And then a responsive image. So let's start with Inline Entity Form. So I just went ahead and I just DDEV Composer required it. So I've got it. I haven't enabled it yet. But this is kind of the same entity reference base site with the recordings and the artists. So this should be bringing back some good memories for everybody. Bunch of recordings, bunch of artists. And then on the recording content type, there is an entity reference field back to the artist. So the idea is that you can add a new recording. And let's say you want to do Ants Marching by Dave Matthews Band. But the problem is Dave Matthews Band does not exist on this site yet. So you'd have to stop what you're doing here. You'd have to come over here, add content, go to artist, add Dave Matthews Band as an artist, and then go back and then add the recording. So that's usually inconvenient. But what if you could create a new artist at the same time you create a new recording? So you can kind of already do that with just Drupal core. Right? So if we go to recording, manage fields, and we edit that reference field, we do have this checkbox, create reference entities if they don't already exist, meaning you can create a new artist if it doesn't already exist. So we don't need any extra modules to do that. So we can come here and we can do recording, and we can do Ants Marching. We can type in Dave Matthews Band, and it's not going to come up anything. Year of release 95, maybe, and probably alternative. So this will create the recording, and it will create an artist node as well, but it will only populate, obviously, the title field. So we can come there, and if we go, everything worked. If we click on Dave Matthews Band, lo and behold, we have a new artist, but with only that one field populated. So it'd be nice if we could populate all the fields. So let's delete Dave Matthews Band. And let's also delete Ants Marching for now. So that's the problem. How can we fully populate 2 entities at once? That's the problem. Well, that's one of the problems, I should say, that Inline Entity Form solves. So we can come back, or not come back, but we'll go to Extend, Inline Entity Form, enable that. It's a contrib module. And you can see right there, it provides a widget. So we know it's a widget on a manage form display page. So let's go back to our recording content type. And if we go to manage fields, we still want this because we still want to create new ones. But if we go to back button, if we go to manage form display, for artist, we now have a new widget or multiple widgets. Inline Entity Form Simple, Inline Entity Form Complex. I always forget what the difference is. I think we actually want, let's start with Simple. So with Simple, we can select the form mode. So we talked about this yesterday in the class, at least, where Drupal 8 and 9 can have multiple form modes. They can have multiple view modes. But we're going to just keep all the default values here and hit Update and hit Save. So let's see what that gives us, although I think we're going to want Complex in a moment. So if we go to Content, Add Content, let's add a new recording with that new widget. And here's our recording. So there's the song name. And then sure enough, here is all of the artist information. Boom, boom, boom. All of this stuff, all of the fields, it's all in a field set. When we get to the bottom, we're back to our recording fields. So that's not bad. But let's go back. Let's look at complex now. This has some additional options. Again, with the form mode, we can add new nodes. We can add existing nodes. So we don't always have to create a new one, right? So this is where the complex comes in handy. And we don't want to duplicate nodes ever. So let's update that, and you'll see real quick what the difference is here. So now when we add a recording, here's ants marching, and now we can select, this should really say select existing node, but if we wanted to come here, we can search for an existing one, like Van Halen. Or we can add a new one, which looks a lot like the simple form. So I'm not sure why that button is right there, but it feels like that button should be at the very bottom, but we'll figure that out in a moment. All right, so before we save, though, let's do one other thing. Let's create a new form mode for artists. So let's say when we're creating a recording, all we really want to be able to edit is name, bio, recording label, website. All right, so we'll leave out photo and some other things. So let's go to structure, display modes, form modes. Well, let's just look at form modes before we add a new one. There's only one alternate for the user other than the default. So let's add a new form mode for content. And let's call it a inline entity form mode, because that's what we're going to use it for. And now if we go to content types, we're going to create a new form mode for artists. Let's activate that one. Notice there's no subtabs up there yet. But as soon as we activate one, now we have default and inline entity form. So let's mess with this one. So on this one, we're going to hide published. We're going to hide photo. We're going to hide alias. We're going to hide sticky. We're going to hide promoted. We're going to hide authored on, authored by. Right? So when we create a recording, these are the only 4 fields we're going to see. So we'll save that. Now let's head back over to our recording, our form display, right? So now we want to change how the artist widget appears, because we don't want to use the default form mode. We want to use the one we just created. Update, save. And now we are at our final solution here. Ants marching. Let's add a new node. It's a lot simpler, just 4 fields. Dave Matthews Band. They're from Virginia. Recording label, other, I think. Website, I believe, is www.dmband.com. And I think if we create node, yeah, so we've created them. This song, I believe, is 1995. I believe it's alternative. And save. And boom, we have a new recording and a new, almost fully populated artist node at the same time.
93.
93, really? Wow. You can see here's our 2 entities right there. So for the sake of correctness, 93. I would have bought 94. I don't think I would have believed it was 93, but okay. All right. There you go. So that's inline entity form. Is that about what I promised to at least Terry and Breck and John?
Yeah, no, it's great.
Yeah. That looks pretty handy, actually.
Yeah, it's super handy. It's especially when you combine it with custom form modes. So remember, that was the only non-core module I used there was Inline Entity Form. And Commerce uses Inline Entity Form a lot. So it's pretty well maintained and pretty stable. All right, cool. All right, so let's move on to the next one. So let me stop this one. I'm not trying to spell there. CD week 3. All right, so this is the week 3 site. All right, so we are going to be, I don't even know if I enabled it yet. I was playing with it earlier. I may have left it enabled. If so, I'm going to uninstall it so we can start from scratch. Uninstall. Yep, let me get rid of it first. Uninstall. All right, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to show you kind of the normal use case for this module. And actually, let me actually create, do I have another Batman? Let me create another Batman with a landscape picture. Landscape Batman, Batman Ipsum. There we go. That's a good one. I think it's big. How big is that? Oh, that's the original. Hold on. I want a big one. Let me. Give me a sec. Come on. Test images. How big is this one? 71K. Man. I feel like I've been through this a bunch of times. You know what? I'm going to get rid of this one because I have a really wide Dave Matthews Band just in my thing. Dave Matthews Band day.
I'm good with that. I'm starting to see a lot of crossover in our musical taste.
There you go. Yeah, they're one of my favorites.
I think they've been banned from Chicago.
That's a great story.
I was listening to Springsteen all morning on YouTube. Put up a bunch of his concerts this morning. That was pretty good. Can't spell Dave Matthews Band. Dave Matthews Band. Okay. All right. So. Oh, it got cropped because of my existing settings. So let me just kind of reset everything. So article, manage display. So let's just say on the default, we're just going to do the original image. Well, I'll even do wide because I've got a wide one there. I guess that's 1090 pixels. So that's on default. Let's save that. And I want to actually use, well, no, actually, we're just going to stick with default. Okay, so we save that, come back here. There we go. Okay, so this image in reality is, if I open this in a new tab, oh, I guess it's that big. So it's a little bit bigger than what you see there. Okay, so it's almost full screen of this 13-inch monitor. But here's the problem. This image, come on, inspect element. It's 3.6 megs on my machine. And this version of the image is 1090 pixels wide. And it's just, oh, here's image. It just happens to be constrained to the width of this column by, there's a max width CSS property of 100%. Meaning, no matter how wide this window is, this image is never going to break out of this column. But that also means if we go into, so this is 960 pixels wide, right? And if we did an inspect element, it's still the same image that's 1090 wide. If we go to whatever this is, 683, it's still the same image. Even if we go all the way down to what's this, an iPhone 8, that image is still there, still being displayed. I wish I could. Well, anyway, it's still using that same 1090 image. So I don't know what the size of that image is. We can look real quick. ls-alh websites default files 21, 23. Oh no, it's got to be in the styles. Sorry. Styles pub styles wide. Really? Yeah, I need to do WI public 21, 23. There we go. So it's 55K. Right? So that image that's being displayed is 55K. And it's 55K regardless of if the person's on a phone or if the person's on a desktop. Even though clearly the desktop can take advantage of a larger size than the phone. So the problem we're trying to solve is if you're viewing it on a phone, why should we be sending you an image that's 1090 pixels wide when you're never going to need a 1090 pixel wide image? Why don't we send you an image that's 300 pixels wide that's probably a lot smaller than 55K? And that will save bandwidth for you and also make the image, make the page load faster for you, and save some work on our hosting provider. Right? So there's 3 solid, probably more than 3, but at least 3 solid advantages to serve up different images depending on the user's responsive mode. So that's the problem we're trying to solve. That make sense? I'm going to say everyone agrees. Everyone agrees vigorously with Mike. That is what I'm saying in my head. Where are your heads? There we go. Carla's agreeing with me because she's the only one whose camera is. Let me see, anybody else? Everyone? Oh, there's Terry. Okay. Okay. So yeah. So let's see how the responsive image module solves that problem. So what it does, basically, in short, is it allows us to assign an image style to the various responsive modes. So if we go to a responsive image, and I suggest that when you first start playing with this, kind of do it the way I'm doing it, so it's really obvious that you're dealing with different images. And I'll show you why. I'll show you how to do that in a minute. So when you enable it, you basically get a new responsive image styles option. Don't even worry about that at first. I always think about it in terms of image styles, meaning I need to have an image style to serve up on mobile, an image style to serve up on tablet, and an image style to serve up on wide. And those 3 image styles are going to scale or scale and crop the image to different sizes depending on the responsive mode. So, when you install a responsive image, it automatically gives you some image styles, but I'm going to use my own just for clarity. So I'm going to create one and I'm going to call it mobile, a mobile image style. And I think this is the best way to learn it. You have to make this stuff obvious and you'll see what I mean. So when we're on mobile, I want to scale the image, first of all. And I want to scale it to a max of, let's say, 400 pixels. Right? So that Dave Matthews Band image that we saw, it's 1090 is the wide. I want to make a version of that instead of 1090 pixels wide, it's going to be 400 pixels wide. And that's the version I'm going to use in mobile. So I'm going to do that. And now here's kind of the learning trick I've found it helped me. To start and to learn it and to verify things are working, I always add another one, something that makes it easy to see that it's working. So I'm going to desaturate the mobile one as well and make it black and white. That way we'll know if it's working because it'll be smaller, but it will also be black and white. So we'll do that one first. All right, then I'm going to create another one for tablet. And let's say tablet, we're going to scale it to say 800, I guess. I just have to look up these numbers. So we'll just say 800. And again, I want to do something obvious, so I'm going to just flip it. I'm going to rotate 180 degrees. So I'll know that this image style is being used. All right, and then I'm going to do, and then we'll just stick with wide. We'll stick with the existing wide for the wide one. All right, so the goal is we want to be able to, when someone's viewing that page or an image using our responsive image format, if they're on a desktop, we want them to see this image style. Or if they're on a tablet, we want them to see this one. If they're on a mobile device like a phone, we want them to see this one. So now that we have those built, we can go to our responsive image styles. And there's a couple here that you can use. I'm going to just create a new one. I'm going to call it Mike, just so it's real obvious, not Mike one policy. That's something else. Mike. All right. Mike. Okay, there we go. The breakpoint group is, so this is an important thing because something has to notify responsive image module what the breakpoints are, right? It's not just going to know. So those of you who have taken my theming class, and those of you who are yet to take my theming class, you will learn that in the theme, so here, let me ls-al websites, not web, yeah, core themes Bardic. There we go. Themes can actually have what's called a breakpoints file. And all this breakpoints file does, I'm just going to even cat it out. Cat just outputs it. Web core, this is a core theme, Bardic breakpoint. All this does is basically say where the breakpoints are. There's a breakpoint at 560. Well, actually, this is mobile, which is going to be anything less than 560. Narrow, which is tablet, is going to be between 560 and 850. And anything greater than 851 is going to be considered wide in Bardic. So as long as your active theme is using, one of these, then you'll have a breakpoint group listed there. So it's important your theme has one, even your custom theme. So I'm going to switch over to Bardic since that's the one that we're using. And notice it pulls up mobile, narrow, wide. Mobile, narrow, wide, right from this file. So we don't have to worry about where the breakpoints are because our theme has them defined. So we're just going to leverage them. All right, so we go into the wide one, and there's three options. You can do not use this breakpoint, in which point it'll just use the fallback. But we're going to set one for each. I always use the middle one. If I was stronger at CSS, I might do this one. I think you have to use this one if your theme doesn't have a breakpoint group, maybe. But you can specify different sizes, and I always, the VW stand for view window. I'm at 100% of the view window. I'm not even sure what that means.
View width.
View width. Thank you. I knew I was close. So we're just going to keep it simple, and we're just going to select an image style for this breakpoint. So for wide, obviously, we want to use wide. For narrow, I want to use our tablet image style. And then for mobile, obviously, we want to use the mobile image style. Right? And we can have a fallback. So select the smallest image style you expect to appear in this space. The fallback image style should only be used on the site if an error occurs. So I've always wondered why it's the smallest image style. I would think that you'd want to use the biggest. So I'm not really sure. This has always confused me. So I think I normally set this to the biggest just because I'm not sure what that means. So I'm going to stick to my guns here and ignore this gray text and rely on one of you at some point to tell me why I'm wrong. All right, so that's all set. We have our new Mike responsive image style. Now, it's right in the name. These are image styles. But so they're kind of like meta image styles, right? It's an image style that, depending on the responsive mode, calls another image style. So that part of this, that I think that's the most confusing thing about this module. It's like it's an image style that calculates which image style to use. Think about it that way, maybe. So since it's an image style, we should be able to figure out, oh, well, I need to go to my manage display page, to my formatter, select responsive image, and I want to use the mic image style. And hit save. And now we should be able to see pretty easily if it works because we used all those wacky image styles. All right, so just to be safe, I'm going to clear everything. Oh, I see. Okay, let's see. David, can you keep the original ratio, but fit a set ratio so slideshow and page dump around? So David, for that, I suggest scale and crop. Or you can use the ups. I'm sure image effects contrib module has some more options, but that's what I would do. Oh, and Breck, so the handout agrees with me. So past mic agrees with present mic is what you're saying, Breck? Seems like it.
Yes.
All right. All right, so there we go. So this is wide. So wide, this should still be our 1090 image. And let's see, sites default, file set, wide, there it is. So that is still our wide. So now if I go to responsive design mode, now if I just switch to responsive design mode here, it's not a page reload. So it's still, oh, actually it did do a page reload because it's black and white now. Sometimes Safari doesn't do the page reload. So I'm going to reload. But clearly I'm using the mobile one because it's black and white. That's why I like putting in those extra effects, just so it's obvious that they're being used. So we can come over here and click on that. And if you look at the, it still says wide. Maybe I do have to do. Doesn't it look black and white to you? It looks black and white to me. Oh, I know why. Okay, yeah. So when you use responsive image, it now uses the picture. Make that bigger for everybody. The picture element, and then you get different sources depending on the responsive mode. So you can see here's the wide source, the tablet source, and the mobile source. So all three sources are there, and it figures out which one's being used based on the media query, which is right there. So this is black and white. And so I'll close this because it makes things bigger. And now if we go to an iPad, so this must be larger than 800. Let me go this way. iPad and reload, because that definitely does not look like an iPad there. That does not look like an iPad. So still, let's see, maybe I have to go this big. I'm having trouble getting that tablet size. How do I rotate these? And oh, there it is. Okay, that's the right size because now it's upside down. So now they're upside down. Another way of doing this is just if you, I think, let's see, if we go here, if I just manually start, once I hit the break point, you'll see the sidebar go away, I think. Yeah, okay. And now it's upside down, right? Right side up, upside down, right side up, upside down. And if I keep going smaller till I get to the mobile break point, it'll go right side up and then black and white. There it is. So there's the other break point. So that tells me that that module is working. So once I know that it's working, at that point, I go back into my image styles. And I get rid of the desaturate. And then I can get rid of the flip as well on tablet. Now I was going to go a little bit further, but I think I'm actually going to wait because Matt's not here this week. And Matt was interested in using this with WebP as a fallback. And I think that that's possible using a couple of contributed modules. So the idea is basically you can set up a responsive image style so that the default is WebP, a WebP formatted image. But if your browser doesn't support WebP, it'll go down to a PNG or a JPEG or something. But I think I'm going to save that demo for when Matt's around. I'm 80% sure we can make responsive image do that, but I've never done it before, and I know Matt was interested, so I think I'll wait till next week for Matt to be around to do that. Okay, so Marvin, I would assume to choose a small size so you guarantee it will show up on any device. Why wouldn't the largest size show up on any device? The JPEG quality doesn't change. That's actually set, David, by the image toolkit. So I think with the image effects module, you get more fine grained control of JPEG quality and things like that, but not with just core. So Marvin, I don't know. Convince me of your logic, Marvin, because I'm not seeing it. So I guess I'm thinking if you're on like a desktop and something goes wrong and the fallback is a small image, then you're going to have a little small image on a big desktop. Like, why not? You know, as long as your max width is set to 100%, why not just serve up the big image if there's an error? That way you're guaranteed everyone's going to see it at the width that they expect. See that? I won. I shut Marvin up. He doesn't have a response for me. I'm gonna drop the mic. See, now you sound like my 20-year-old right there with that response. Meh. All right, I'm going to stop the recording then. I think we're done. Any other questions about either of these modules? No? All right, fantastic. So stop the recording. Amy June, you'll be happy to know I did turn on transcription by myself.